Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely.
Okay, so you have to bear with me on the timeline of events because I was young and it happened a while ago. So this had to have happened early 2000s because I was in middle school sometime. I can't remember what grade or age, but I was a kid, and me and a group of friends were always playing this game called Four Aces, which you get a deck of cards and you pick out all of the aces, right? Don't do this because I don't know. Don't do it. Anyway, so you get four aces out, and I'll just go by one and tell you what these meant. So the diamonds, this was a yes. A heart was a maybe. I can't remember. These two might be switched around from what I remember, but I think this was definitely, and then this was a no. So I'm pretty sure this is like equivalent to a Ouija board, kind of, but I don't know. Anyway, so we always used to get together whenever my parents would go out of town for the night to the casino or whatever it was, and we would sit around, turn off all the lights, have candles lit, and play this game like some idiots. So, um, this is going to be a long story, and there's kind of like little scary stories in between to try to make sense of what I'm gonna, what the end game was, and like why my theories on what happened. So, I told you that to tell you this. So, I had a cousin who was living over at my grandparents' house, and at that time, well, still, um, my parents have a house right next to my grandparents' house. It's probably like, I don't know, maybe 200 to 300 feet away from each other. And we live on a Native American reservation. And so, we were always like real suspicious of things going on with like spirits and whatever. And so what had happened was my cousin, he was staying in the basement at my grandpa's house, and at the time he was kind of like going through um some issues, and um I believe he was trying to, end his life, or he was thinking about it, and he was sleeping, and this was um in the basement, like I said. And the way my grandparents' basement is set up is it's huge. Like, you walk down these huge flight of stairs, and then there's two doors on each side. One door was his, one door was just fucking junk. Sorry for cussing, but it's just junk, a whole bunch of junk down there. And on his side, he had all his stuff set up, and it was like a man cave or whatever. And there was like blankets that were dividing, his area from the rest of the basement, right? And he said that he was in a sleep paralysis state when this happened because he heard something, and it opened the door, and like the basement door is kind of like creaky or whatever. It opened the door, and he can hear whatever it was, like dragging, maybe. I don't know if that's the right term, but he could hear it anyways coming in. And he said it sounded like chains rattling around. Like when somebody walks the chain, if they have like a chain on their wallet or something, it'll be hitting. It's like, anyways. So here's the chains, and at this time, this thing was like evil, like, laughing or whatever, and blah, blah. And I guess I was telling him, like, just do it, because he was thinking about, taking his life. And he was in a sleep paralysis state where he couldn't move at all. So he was like, freaking out, couldn't move, whatever. This thing was bothering him. Um, Pretty demonic. So then he finally snaps out of it, and he goes and tells um, his stepmom and his dad, and then my grandpa. So then my grandpa, he is kind of like, I don't want to say what he is actually, because, I respect that. But anyways, he goes downstairs, and he like basically prays over everything, and he sages the house, smudges the house, and this thing leaves. He tells it to leave, it leaves. And so then what my theory is whenever we were, one of the nights whenever we were sitting around at my parents' house playing this game, I feel like we might have brought this thing in, because then, you know, after what happened at my grandparents' house, it might have came, you know, because it was just a short distance from their house, might have came over, started messing with me. And I remember sleeping this one night, and you know, I was scared because shit was always happening in my parents' house. Like, I was always getting scared, whatever. My parents blamed it on me and loving horror movies and scary movies and stuff, and I was just being like paranoid, whatever. But I remember being scared one night, and I slept in the living room. And I remember I made like a bed pellet on the floor, and so my living room is like right here, and then on this side is my parents' room, and then on the other end of the house is my brother's room, my room, and then our bathroom that we shared. And I was asleep, and I woke up because I just, you know, you just wake up out of a sleep because you feel something. And I wake up, and then something was standing like over me, and it was crazy because like I was on the floor, right, and this thing, whatever it was like hunched over like in my face, like looking down at me, and I just like frozen. I started being in a sleep paralysis state, couldn't move, couldn't scream anything, so I was just closing my eyes as tight as I could. And then finally, whenever I was able to move, I jumped up right away, ran into my mom's room. And at the time my dad wasn't staying at the house because he would leave to go work in the forest, because he does some forest things. And it was just me and my mom there, and I think my brother was there, or he might have been under friends, I don't know. But anyway, so this thing was in my face, blah blah. Ran to my mom's room. She woke up, she smudged everything, made me feel better, and then went back to sleep. So then some time passes by, and I can't remember, so the timeline's really like blurry to me right now. But anyways, so some time goes by, and then I had some girlfriends over, again doing dumb stuff, mess around with ghosts and spirits and stuff. And we ended up having this one freaky night where we captured something on camera. It was a photo, but back in the day, them photos weren't good. It was on one of my friends' phones, and it was one of those phones that like, it was a flip phone, I guess. And whenever you would shut it, it would snap real loud. Anyways, so we were messing around and asking whatever, are you in the house with us, blah blah blah. And then so we were playing this game, right? And we would say, is there something in the room with us? And then whatever card we would pick up, so this would be a definitely, so we would put it down with the definitely ace. And so then if something, you know, if we started getting a dead end, we'd ask like, are you in so-and-so's room or whatever? And it would be like, yes. And so then we'd go to that room, and she would start taking pictures. Well, this thing, I'm not saying it's the same spirit as the chain, we call it the chain ghost, but I'm pretty sure it was something else maybe that was lurking around and got in while we were being dumb, like inviting stuff in. And anyways, this thing, during that time, it was funny because during that time, I believe it was either The Grudge or The Ring just came out or something. And so this thing was sitting in my brother's room on the couch, and it was like facing towards the window, because she was just taking pictures like from the doorway, and then into the room, everything was dark, and she would snap pictures. At this time, I don't think the phones had like video capability or something, I don't know. But anyway, so she would be snapping pictures, and this thing is sitting on the couch, and it's like, you know, like hunched over or whatever, and you can see its hair like all in its face, like just looking towards the window. And then whatever it was, it looked like, I'm pretty sure it was a girl, I don't know, because it had long hair. Could have been a guy, I don't know. Anyway, so facing that way, it had like a white gown or gray gown or something on, a light colored gown. And me and her were the only ones that seen this damn picture, because at the time, my other friends were in the dining room, which was like a few feet away from the hallway that goes into me and my brother's room area and the bathroom area. And they were like, we want to see. My friend was passing the phone over, and mysteriously, this phone fucking slips out of her hand. This thing closes, snaps, can't get the picture back. So then the phone closes, we lose the entire picture. That is done and over with. Can't remember what happened else that night. What happened next was some time went by and 2 of my girl cousins moved in with us, and in my room, me and both of them, we slept in my room, and obviously my brother had his room. So then in the girls' room, we had a bunk bed, and I remember my cousin, my oldest girl cousin, she called me, and she was crying, she was freaking out. She's like, please come back, or whatever, something just happened. So me and my other cousin that lived there, we rushed back to the house, and obviously my older cousin, she was shaken up. You know, she was telling us that whenever she was taking a nap, something started shaking the bed, and like this bunk bed was huge. It was like a big bunk bed, and like she woke up and it was shaking the bed. It wouldn't stop or whatever, and then finally it did, and that's when she called us. So we were like, what the fuck, like I don't know how to explain it. We'll have grandpa come over here and smudge the house and chase whatever it is out, because I kept like excuse me, I kept like getting these instances. We kept, you know, going through this or whatever at the house. So finally she believed us. So then my grandpa comes over. It was a school day, I remember that, and my brother was a senior in high school, so he was home because he had a free hour, his first hour, and all of the rest of us were in school. And I remember him telling me that, or telling all of us what had happened when my grandpa came over. So my grandpa comes and, you know, he's praying the house, blessing the house or whatever, and he's going through the entire house, you know, trying to chase whatever it is or whoever's in there out. And at the time my grandpa was praying, the front door flew open and slammed shut. And this is crazy. Like I was in disbelief when he was telling us this. Like, no, you fucking lying. But like it's crazy because our front door is a huge door. Like it's big, it's heavy, it's loud. Like, and there was no wind or anything. But you know, like he was there to witness like this front door fly open, slam dramatically, whatever. And then after that happened, my grandpa was like, there, it left. It listened, it left. It's not coming back. Whatever. So that was the end of the chain story ghost, and this just had led into some other shit. Like I don't even know, like I don't know this thing, where it was going, like how it got attached to me, but obviously this, or maybe something else even, had followed me to college. So I got to college, which was, you know, hundreds of miles away from where I grew up, new community, new environment, whatever. Tell me why my dumbass brought this freaking 4 Aces game to play with me and my new college friends in the basement of our dorm, our haunted dorm. Dumb. But anyway, so freaky things started happening at college. You know, I was seeing shit in the reflection by the bathrooms. Like I was seeing stuff running around. There was this one time, oh my gosh, like it was so freaking creepy. Like I can't even kid you. Like so I happened to, I think I was still a freshman in college, but I wasn't the freshest freshman, you know what I mean? Like I already completed my first semester of freshman year, so then I was able to move into the co-ed dorms my second semester. So I moved in there, and at the time my best friend was there in college with me from my hometown, and we roommated together. So then I can't remember if she was there or if she was out, I don't know. But I was asleep and it was super dark in the room, and I remember waking up and I was in sleep paralysis, and something was screaming in my freaking face. Like I kid you not, it was screaming in my face. Like it was so loud to the point that I thought my eardrums were gonna burst, because not only was it screaming in my face, like I felt like it was all over my head. Like it was screaming here, but I could hear it in both of my ears, and I was like freaking out in the sleep paralysis. You know, I was praying. Like for some reason I couldn't close my eyes, but at the same time it was super dark in there, so I couldn't see anything, you know. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I feel like I can still hear it. But it was like, I don't know, man, it was just like a really creepy moment, and it definitely traumatized me. So can't can't remember what happened that night. I woke up and I think I might have went into the common area and kind of sat out there, you know, under the lights and stuff. And the next time that something happened was I started to get nightmares really bad. Like, it was really bad. It was definitely like a traumatizing moment, I guess you could say, in my lifetime, because these nightmares were horrible. So in these nightmares, and these nightmares I kept having, like, over and over and over again. There was, you know, it might have been a little bit different, but, you know, it ultimately it came down to what happens in the nightmare. So there was either, you know, the same, you know, entity in the nightmare, or it was the same action that was going on. So in these nightmares, I would always see this dark figure, right? And I feel like it was the same dark figure that was hunched over me from the story in part 1. And I don't know, it was just always there, whatever. And then I was I don't like saying this, just because I don't want to bring any of those memories and feelings back, or, you know, create more nightmares for myself. But I feel like it was possession in the nightmares. Like, I just felt like it was literally in my body. Like, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it was just a really horrible thing. But the very first nightmare that I had was I was at my grandparents' house, and in the nightmare, so at my grandparents' house, there's like a huge road that leads up to the approach, and then there's like a little, I guess you would call it like a highway or something up there. I remember seeing this thing, and it came, and it's crazy because my grandpa always used to tell us, you know, like, watch out every time it rains, the jichi, like the ghost, comes down from the approach, and then it goes down towards the power grounds, because we live right out on this hill right above the power grounds on the res. And so this thing would come down, you know, right before it rains, because supposedly it was like a man that had passed away during the rain and an accident up there on the road. And in this dream, it was like that. The very first nightmare I had, it comes down and it's running, like it's running down the approach, running all the way down to the power grounds, and then it starts circling the power grounds, and then it notices me from the freaking power grounds. It notices me. Ew, I'm getting goosebumps. It notices me standing there watching it, and I remember seeing it. Like, I seen it, its face, like, I don't know how to explain its face. It was just like a really scary, dark, like, entity, like, not like a dementor, but kind of like, you know, that flowy kind of phantom-like vibe. But it seen me, and it started running up to my grandpa's house, and I'm like, oh my god. Like, at that time I was with somebody in the nightmare. At that time, whenever it seen me and started running towards me, I look around, no one's there. That was the end of the nightmare. But that was one of the scariest nightmares I've ever had. And then from that point on, it turned into other nightmares where this thing was bothering me, this thing was possessing me. Like, it was, you know, it was freaking me out. Like, in my, I don't know, I just felt it in my bones. Like, it's so real feeling. And like, I would wake up screaming, like I would wake up sweating, I would wake up in tears. Like, my husband witnessed it so many times. So I end up having these nightmares for a while, a couple years maybe, but it wasn't like a every day, every night kind of thing. It was like, you know, every once in a while I would have a nightmare, and of course it resembled or was very much similar to the other nightmares that I've had. And I remember going home, back home to the res to visit. I don't know if it was a holiday or just to visit, but I go back, and then I was visiting my grandpa, and, you know, we were just talking or whatever, and he's like, are you still having those dreams, my girl? And I was like, what? Yeah. And then he says, I sent out some prayers and some protection for you. And I'm like, okay, thank you so much, Gramps. And I tell him a little bit about him, and he's like, whatever it is that's there, it's attached to something that you've been moving around with. So it's a very powerful, like, dark entity that's been following you around for a while, and you need to find out what it's attached to. And I was like, what the hell? And so I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do that, but okay. And then, of course he like gives me some protection and stuff. And then I go and ask my mom. I'm like, Mom, did you tell Grandpa about my nightmares I've been having? And she's like, no. And I was like, what the hell? Like, he just knew. And then I was like, well, he kind of always knows things like that. And, it's just kind of like random stuff. So then, some time passes by. Me and my husband end up moving because we're like we move every year. But we end up moving, and of course I'm purging stuff. Like, I'm throwing away a bunch of stuff, giving stuff away to Goodwill and everything, or to those bins that are around town. So then I noticed, like, after we moved, I wasn't really having much nightmares anymore. I still do have nightmares, but they're nothing like what it used to be. Like, it used to be really scary to me. And so yeah, I just thought it was crazy that my grandpa knew that. And, he recognized, like, this thing's been following me for a while and whatever. But I don't know if it was, like, the prayers and the protection that had my back, or if it was, like, me throwing away, something that it would have been attached to. I don't know. But yeah, I have more scary stories to tell, but it's a lot. So maybe I will post them.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
So we'll do the ER version of that. I was working in a very rural ER, and it was a very old ER, and things just kind of always happened there. Now, I want to preface this by saying that they had caught apparitions on security cameras in that ER, mainly of kids. There was one apparition that was at the front door that just kind of appeared, shook the door, and then kind of disappeared. Someone was walking out of the ER, and on camera, you see them walking, and there's 2 little kids behind them. And then when they come back, there are no little kids behind them. So it was very much haunted. Everybody knew it. It was kind of one of those things. In that particular hospital, we would have a very small L&D department, and we had OB on call 24/7, but they weren't in-house 24/7. So at night, if someone came in and they were like in the end stages of labor and they were actually going to deliver before the OB doctor would get there, the ER doctor would go down and deliver the baby. And then when OB came in, they would hand off the patient. That particular night, we had a call in. So it was on staff was myself, another nurse, the ER doctor, and the ER tech. At that point in time, we didn't have anybody in the ER. So someone came in delivering a baby. The ER doctor ran down there. And in cases like this, they would take an ER nurse with them, just an extra set of hands, emotional support human. So that's what happened that night. I was left by myself in an empty ER, and my ER tech was in the front of the ER in the triage room where they would register people. So in the department, but we were separated by a couple walls. So I'm sitting at my computer, and I hear a little pitter patter of feet go in front of me. Yet again, not out of the normal, didn't really faze me too much, but I was aware of it. What happened next kind of made me uncomfortable. So to my left was the ambulance bay doors. Now, it was a very windy part of the state, and so occasionally doors would kind of blow open or they would just pop open and shut. That wasn't totally out of the norm. But what happened this evening is both doors blew open, and this black mist kind of wafted past me. And it kind of headed towards one of the rooms that we kind of reserved for end of life care, where families could come in and say their goodbyes, and there was a bathroom. So if someone was towards the end of their life, they could have all of their family in there as well. And that's kind of what that room was saved for. So that's where that mist kind of headed to. And that kind of made me uncomfortable. But what happened next made me shit my pants. The stretcher right next to that room was in a bay, and the stretcher was locked. And it sounded like someone really heavy sat on that stretcher and made it scoot back. Like I said, the wheels were locked, so it didn't go like flying across the bay. That would have really freaked me out. But it did move and scooch back, and there was nobody there. So within 30 seconds, we got pitter-patter of feet, doors blow open, mist comes through, stretcher scoots. And I just got up from my computer and walked right out to triage, where there was another living soul that I knew about. And I told my tech about it. She had been there for 15 years, so none of this was new to her. And so I just kind of calmly told her what happened. Well, I think I was calm. I probably was freaking out. And she just kind of looked at me and was like, yeah, that tracks. And just kind of kept on.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Tried to film this once before, but I didn't realize that you can edit when you stitch videos, so we're gonna try again. I also spooked myself out thinking about this, so we're just gonna chill with the cat. I grew up in Washington State, and in junior or senior year of high school, not sure, those years are blurry for me, a group of my friends and I decided to make a 3-hour drive to a town called Concrete to go and visit what is called and locally known by as Devil's Tower. Devil's Tower is an old mill. I think it's a stone mill or a concrete mill, but now it is a giant concrete building. In the daytime, it's full of graffiti and it's in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest, so it's really pretty up there and people go to take photos. But it is considered haunted, and being high schoolers, we were like, let's go to a haunted house or whatever, like a haunted place and experience. So like 5 of us pack ourselves into one of our cars and we make the 3-hour drive up to Concrete. It's really hard to find the place, but we end up finding a turnoff road, and we can't go like drive all the way up to it. There's like a barricade, so we stop and park on the side of the road. Now, when we got there and when we got out of the car, it was probably, I don't know what time exactly, but the sun was setting. It was dusk, so you could see, like I could see people, but it was definitely starting to dim. And if you know anything about Washington or the Pacific Northwest, it gets dark very, very, very fast, especially in the woods. It was like a 15 to 20 minute walk from the car up to Devil's Tower, so by the time that we got there, it was already pitch black. And at the time of getting out of the car, I was feeling okay, but as I started walking towards Devil's Tower, I was getting increasingly just like off-put. Like I was feeling very, very weird. And I didn't really feel like it was nerves or anxiety because I was with a large group and I felt safe. I had also been like out and doing stuff by myself at that time, so I was like, I'm chilling, I'm cool. But there was just something in me that was it was like each step I took felt like I should have been taking a step in the wrong direction, like the other direction. Halfway through the walk, I'm feeling very weird, and something in me decides to turn around and look behind us, and we're like all facing one direction, so we didn't notice this barn off to the side of the trail that we had passed. And something in me made me turn around and just look directly into the barn, which the front part of it was missing, so you could see like kind of through it, and I swear to God, I felt like someone was watching me from there. However, I didn't want to really cause any like alarm in the group, so I was just like, mental note, okay, there's a barn over there, I'm feeling weird, let's keep it pushing. As we get up to the tower, it's a big concrete building that's like 2 to 3 stories on this kind of hillside that overlooks like a ravine, water, lake, river situation. And we came up from the back, so we're on like the second level where you can enter, and it's just big concrete walls, door. At this point, it was pitch black. We all had our flashlights on, pointed at the building, and I just remember seeing it, and that feeling inside me that was being like, I'm feeling weird, it was on red alert right now. I knew that I should not step into that building. It wasn't like a, I don't want to, I'm scared. It was like a turnaround right now. So I did. Me and one of the guys in the group walked back to the car while the other like 4 people went and explored. And every step that I took back to the car, I started to feel a little bit better, but I still felt like there was someone watching me. This is where the story is going to split from my perspective to someone who was in the group that went into the tower. At this point, like, I'm back at the car. Me and the guy are just listening to the radio, talking, just vibing, just kind of like breathing. The group enters in at the 2nd floor, and they're just walking around this big concrete area, looking at the graffiti, checking it out. They find a staircase leading up to, I guess they entered in at the 1st floor, so they find a staircase leading up to the 2nd floor, and then on the 2nd floor, they find a ladder leading up to a 3rd floor. And they're deciding if they want to go up to the 3rd floor, and I'm assuming they're kind of spooked right now, you know? But one person volunteers, and so they climb up the ladder, and they just stick, like, you know, this amount of their head up into the 3rd floor and look around. And the group said that they looked for about 3 seconds, came back down the ladder, quiet, turned to them, and said, "We need to leave right now." The group didn't really ask too many questions. They got their shit, they left, they walked down, but they started to hear someone following them, like footsteps running after them. So they started to run to the car. And this is when it switches to my perspective. I was just chilling in the car, finally a little bit calm, when 4 fucking people run and like get into the car as fast as possible, just being like, we gotta go right fucking now. Okay, so we get the car going and we exit and we like drive away down this like 5-minute dirt path to the main road. And I don't know if it was flashlights or a car behind us or something, but when we were driving away, there were lights like shining in through the back of the car. And I was in the front of the car, looked around, looking in the back, and there was a light like shining into the back of. Not 2 lights though. It wasn't, I don't think it was another car, because we would have heard a car come down like the path. It was just like one light. So we drive away and we find like a, I don't know, a gas station or something to turn off into to kind of collect ourselves and figure out what the fuck just happened. And that's when the guy that went up onto the ladder tells us that when he went up there, he looked in one direction and then he turned around and there was someone staring at him. Not like glowy eyes, like his eyes had adjusted to the darkness and there was someone staring at him. I don't know what to say to that. We were in the middle of the Pacific Northwest mountains in a pretty desolate town. I don't really think it would have been a squatter or someone that was trying to stay there. It was also right after winter, like early spring, so it was pretty cold. So yeah, I don't know, but I literally woke up yesterday in a cold sweat, and my first memory was that experience, and I just felt like I needed to share. After everything, we got Denny's, and yeah, I would go back up there in the daytime because I didn't get to see the graffiti, but I would not go back up there at night.
Okay, story time about the ghost that lives in my house. So one day it was me, my mom, and my little brother, and we were literally getting ready to leave the house. My mom's rushing us, and she's like, okay, when you guys are done, come outside. I'm gonna be outside waiting for y'all. So my mom starts blowing the horn. I'm telling my brother, like, we have to go. Like, mom's blowing the horn. She's getting mad. Like, hurry up. My little brother is like, you know, give me a second. Just give me a minute. He's yelling all of this from his room. And I'm like, Aaron, let's go. Like, what is taking you so long? He says, okay, here I come. Walks out the door and walks down the steps. As my brother is walking down the steps, we make eye contact. As soon as I look at him, it's like his entire, like, he just disappeared. Like, it literally turned into like this little boy. He had dark hair, he was wet, he was like blue, like almost like he had drowned. And he went around the corner, went down the basement, and shut the door. As soon as he shut the door, my little brother opens the door. It's like, what are you doing? Me and mom been outside for 10 minutes waiting on you. Let's go. What? This is like my 5th time trying to record this. But anyway, fast forward a couple weeks later, I hear like this woman crying in the basement, and it sounds like my mom, so I decided to go downstairs because I have to go put the clothes in the dryer. I get to the door, and it was like my stomach just dropped. I immediately knew that is not my mom crying behind this door. My mom is not home. But let me know if y'all want to hear that story too, because that's a whole nother ghost encounter. So if you want to hear it, let me know, because I will tell my story.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I had to go to town for work, and I was gone for a total of like, I want to say like 8 months at the time. Obviously I didn't want to pay for my rent whenever I was gone, so I decided to get a sublet. Like, just disclaimer, I'm not blaming her for this. This could not have anything to do with her, but I'm just stating what I know. So anyway, so there's weird energy. I'm trying to just ignore it for the most part and not really think much of it, but I am, you know, I am very sensitive to energies and very sensitive to spirits and stuff like that, so have been for a while. But I haven't ever felt anything in my house. I've only, you know, it's only been like weird experiences out in the world. But anyway, get back. It just feels weird. Like, there's just something off about the entire apartment. But mainly, the main part where something's off is in my living room. I don't know, but like on that side of the house, it just feels dark. And I couldn't figure out why, or still don't really know why. I started looking at my cameras in the apartment just to see if there was anything weird or like off that was happening, or, you know, just like the basic paranormal things you would look for, of like things moving or like voices or whatever. And I was back for probably like, I don't know, I was back for probably like 3 months, maybe 4. And there was one time where I was talking to my dog and I had just given her a treat. She was eating, and I didn't hear anything while filming her eating her little carrot. And I played it back. There was a moment where she just stops completely and stares right next to me like someone was there, which she's been doing more and more since we've gotten back to the apartment. I think that's when I asked her, like, is it good, just to get her to, like, you know, distract her. And in the video, when I watched it back, I heard a whisper, and I listened to it over and over again. And I don't want to like put out what I think it says. I kind of want you to listen and like let me know what you think it says, but I have my opinions and I'll share in the comments. But same day, I'm going to get ready for work, and this is maybe like less than an hour after the video, so I'm already like, you know, hyper aware of something going on. So I started getting ready, and I'm in my room doing my makeup, and like thought I hear things, but of course I feel like I'm being paranoid at this point. There's this one point where I'm getting ready and I swear I heard something, and honestly I'm just so curious at what's going on in my apartment at this point that I'm like, let's go back to the security cameras, let's see what we can see or hear what we can hear, and then just kind of like go from there. Like, maybe it's nothing, maybe it was just like a one and done, but like, no, I feel like this thing wanted my attention. I decided to wait to like watch anything back until I'm out of the apartment and I'm like in my car, headed to work, whatever. And so I get in my car and I put my phone on, you know, to the car, trying to figure out like what we can hear through the car speakers. I start playing it and like everything's like normal, fine. You can hear me kind of like fumbling around in the back, but it's nothing like, I'm not talking, there's no voices, I'm not talking to anyone, I'm not on the phone, nothing. I'm listening and I'm driving along and I'm like, all of a sudden, and it was like unmistaken, I hear a woman's voice say something. And again, I don't want to put it in your head of like what it is, so I would rather like you just let me know in the comments if like what you hear for both of these videos. I've dealt with spirits before, but I've never had to like get them out of where I live, and so this was new for me, new territory. So I, you know, post it and I'm like, friends, help, I think there's a spirit and I don't know if it's a happy one in my apartment. So, you know, I'm getting comments and like multiple people were like, get some sage, which luckily I already had, walk around the house, just let this spirit entity, whatever you want to call it, let it know that it's your home and you have to like tell it to get out. And so I look like a crazy person doing this in my apartment. So since I had saged it, I haven't really heard anything since, but like I still feel a presence. Like one of my best friends stays over a lot and they'll sleep on the couch, and he was saying like he could feel in the middle of the night like something there, and he was like, I was up almost all night, like, he was like, I was in and out of sleep all night trying to figure out like what's going on. I didn't tell him about this because I didn't want to freak him out, and then whenever he said it, I was like, okay. I feel like at this point I'm just kind of living with whatever it is. As long as it stays neutral, we're good. Like I can coexist with whatever it is. I feel like since then it's been better, but I definitely still feel it. It, you know, feels a little weird every now and then, a little dark every now and then, but as a whole, it does feel better. Anyway, I'm gonna put the video up next, so let me know.
Is it good?
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Oh, I have so many stories, but this one in particular was the one that traumatized me. Out of all of them, this one traumatized me, is the reason I will not look outside of windows at night, and I refuse to sleep in that one bedroom. We've been in this house for about 20 years, and this was probably a couple of years after we moved in. Don't know how old I was exactly. I didn't have a clock, I didn't have a phone, and it was the middle of the night, you know, sleeping, whatever, and I woke up. Don't know what woke me up. There was no loud noise, no nothing. I just woke up and I rolled over. When I rolled over, I rolled to face my window. And, you know, didn't really look at it at first, and then for some reason, I just decided to look at that window. And what I saw, the best way to describe it is like just the knuckle part of my hand. No, not the rest of it, just the knuckles of the 4 fingers, not my thumb. And it was going like this on the window, on the shades. And the blinds were those like thin paper shades that you like pull down, no slats, no nothing, like thin white paper. And I could see this. And I watched it for like a few minutes, confused, and then decided to get up and look out my window. Curious child. Big mistake on my part, though. And I looked out that window, and what I saw was this face. The eyes were wide. Like, you could see the whites all around, like the irises in the pupil. You could see all the whites, and it was like a bright white. And then the teeth were snarling, like nose scrunch, like that. And the face was black and green. There was no hair, no ears, no neck, no shoulders, no body. And the window's pretty high off the ground, so you wouldn't be able to see a person's full face like that close to the window from that inside. You just wouldn't be able to do it. It's too tall. And this was a good, like this, high off the bottom of the window, just there, kind of below this. And yeah, terrified me. Saw it, immediately, like, let go of the shade, turn around, and booked it out of my room to my parents' bedroom. Woke both of them up, had them come into my room and look. They didn't see a face. They didn't see anything. Now, the whole time they're standing there, I still see this on my window. They didn't see that. I asked my mom, do you see like the hand thingy? She said, no, I don't see anything. Go back to sleep. There's nothing there. I refused to sleep in that room, so I ended up sleeping on my sister's floor, which is in the bedroom that was next to mine. And I slept there for one night, and then after that, I spent a few nights sleeping on my parents' floor before finally they convinced me to go back to my room. And I went back to my room, had maybe like 1-2 couple nights of no issues whatsoever. And then there was this night that, again, I was woken up in the middle of the night in the window, which isn't a regular rectangle window. It's got like the arch thing on top, and we had put like the stained glass peel and stick cling thing so you can't see out of it on there. And there was like a little light orb that shot across it. Didn't think much of it, thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, ignored it, whatever. A few minutes or so after that, I felt like something was choking me. Freaked out again, ran out of the room, and refused to ever sleep in there again. So I slept on my parents' floor for a while until this room, which used to be a deck, was finished being built. And then I moved in here. Didn't really have any experiences after that for a good long while. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I brought this event up to my mom again and was talking to her about it. And I was like, did you really never see this? And she goes, no, I did. I just didn't want to scare you any more than you already were. And part of me was relieved that I wasn't crazy and that I wasn't the only one who saw at least this. But another part of me was a little angry that she lied to me and made me feel crazy for so long because nobody would believe me. It felt like nobody believed me. It was so frustrating. People would call me crazy because of it. And, I kind of felt a little crazy because, like, I clearly saw this and my parents were standing right there and they said they couldn't see it. And then years down the road, I get told, yeah, I saw that. I just didn't want to scare you more. So, all of that, fine and dandy. Never have been able to figure out what it was that I saw. The cops were never called to check it out and see if there was anybody out there. I don't know why. I was young. I don't know why my parents made the decisions they did on that. If it was me as an adult and that was my child, I would have called the cops and been like, my child said they saw a face outside their window. Come check it out. No. But, like, we never talked about it again until I brought it up many years later to my mom. But, yeah, so that's the story that traumatized me the most. I mean, I have many, many more that I could get into. Like, I could make more videos talking about other experiences. Like, I had a lull where I didn't experience anything for a good long while after this event. And, like, I didn't really start experiencing things again until I moved back home, like 2 years ago. And it's been a little wild since then. It has been a little bit wild. Most of the time I just ignore it, though. But yeah, no, terrified me. And like the image of that face is ingrained into my brain in so much detail, and it's never gonna go away. Never. Ever. And I've talked to so many people who like believe in ghosts and or who know a lot about ghosts or like really interested or they're amateur paranormal hunters or whatnot. Nobody can tell me what it was. Nobody. And I've tried doing research to figure it out. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So if anybody knows what that could have been, please let me know. Because like that's just something I can't figure out, and I'm curious as to what it was I saw. And you know, I'm much older, and paranormal doesn't freak me out like it used to. Like I'm all for it and spooky, creepy stuff. But even to this day, if I'm here alone, I will not go on that side of the house. Won't do it. I'm here. Even sometimes at night, when everyone is here, I don't like going to the bathroom back there. I just feel like I'm being watched. It's just, All I know is something evil is on that side of the house, and I don't like it. But yeah, if you know what a green and black face that's like snarling, bright white eyes, and like this face was way too bright and clear for the time of night that it was. Like, you'd have to have like a flashlight to be that clear and bright in the middle of the night when it's pitch black outside and be able to see it like that. Especially if there's no lights in like the bedroom or anything, which there wasn't. There was like a nightlight in the hallway, that was it. But like, yeah, no, I don't know what it was, but I full-heartedly believe it was not a person standing there. It just, too many things were off about it for it to have been a person. So if you know what it could have been, please let me know. Like, yeah, no, like there's certain family members that I haven't told this to because it would freak them out too badly and they'd never come back to the house. And I already have one family member who refuses to stay here. So yeah, if you know what that could have been, let me know.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, I have a few stories, but I'll just tell you this one for now. So about 10 years ago when I was in middle school, I was getting up to get ready to go to track practice. And so I go downstairs, eat some breakfast, and I come back upstairs. I go to turn on my room light, and all of a sudden, I just hear a ding, and the lights go out. The only thing that I see besides pitch black is the chains to the fan swinging back and forth. The first thing I thought was to yell at my sister because I thought she was trying to play a prank on me. Lo and behold, she walks out of her room that's across the hall with her hairbrush and her eyes are half open like, what are you talking about? What's going on? So I obviously am like, okay, yeah, no, never mind. You didn't do this. Never mind. So I'm thinking, what could have possibly made all of my light bulbs just die at the same time? And what the heck was that sound that was just made? So I dash down the stairs, take it to my mom. I arrive at my mom's bathroom and I am as white as a ghost. And my mom looks up and is like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, you will not believe this. So I told my mom what happened and she's like, yeah, that's kind of weird. She's like, I guess you're just gonna have to get Dad to replace all your light bulbs later today, I guess. So later today comes and my dad gets light bulbs, starts bringing them upstairs, and then tells me first, before we replace the light bulbs, turn on your light and let me just try something. So I hit the button and obviously the lights don't turn on. My dad reaches to the middle chains to the light one and clicks it in. The lights come back on. So I'm thinking, all right, so the light bulbs did not die. That wasn't the cause of the lights going out. It was something yanked the chain to turn off all the lights. So I'm thinking like, what could have possibly done that? Like, definitely not like a spider or not even a lizard. I mean, none of those weigh enough to really be able to yank it down enough. I'm thinking, I mean, not even a cockroach. I mean, a bird, but I would have seen the bird. So I'm trying to figure out like what could have possibly yanked that chain. So it gets me to arrive at the conclusion that I have been going with to this day. So prior to this event, about a few years prior, my grandfather, my dad's dad, Papa Mike, had passed away. And so I was talking to my mom and I'm like, I think it was Papa Mike that was trying to play a little prank on me and just scare me because it's something that he totally would have done. And my mom's like, yeah, that's probably what happened. And he was probably laughing his butt off. So to this day, this is the conclusion that my family went with. And yeah, I do have other stories of weird things happening to the girls in my family, including me. So if y'all want to hear any of those, I can definitely tell y'all those. And another one involves a ceiling fan again. So let me know if you want to know.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Right, so I actually grew up in a haunted house. This story that I'm about to tell you is like something out The Conjuring or Insidious. And it's pretty messed up, but it's my life and it's what I experienced, so I thought I'd share it. With you. So yeah, this is a bit of a long one, but it's worth the wait, so yeah, just stick around till the end and you'll find out why it was so scary. So, I lived with my mum growing up. It was just me and my mum. We moved into this house when I was 4 years old, and literally 2 weeks of being in this house, spooky stuff started happening, and it was weird and wild. We actually lived in a house that was right next to a cemetery. I don't know if that had anything to do with it being haunted, but it was definitely something else too. But you'll find that out soon. But yeah, so moved in. Within 2 weeks, there was things going missing. Fire alarms would go off at 3 o'clock in the morning. There'd be bangs, things falling off the shelves. It'd sound like people running up and down the stairs. Just loads of really weird, bizarre things. And then also at 4 years old, I woke my mum up. Like she told me that I woke her up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, Mum, there's a demon there, and there. And my mum was like, oh hell no, and she grabbed me and took me to my auntie's, because no 4-year-old child knows what the word demon is. Like I don't know where I would have got that from. Like there's no, she wouldn't let me watch TV or anything at like 4. I would like, this was back a while ago, do you know what I mean? Anyway, I used to have night terrors too, so like she'd literally find me at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, just downstairs or on the landing, and I used to just shout, and I'd just be shouting. Yeah, I don't have night terrors anymore, luckily, but yeah, that was an experience. But yeah, so there was just a lot that would happen. And anyway, after being there for a while, my mum was like, do you know what, like, we need a psychic in or something, because we were going between my mum's house to my auntie's house constantly, because we were always scared because of stuff that had happened. Like I used to see shadow figures. I also would see a man that would stand at the end of my bed, and he had long black hair, long black beard. He was about 6 foot tall, stocky, wearing like raggy clothes, boots, like heavyweight boots, and that's what we'd actually hear going up the stairs. And he had black eyes, like dark eyes, like he looked evil, like he was so scary. And I used to hear him shouting from the corners of the bedroom, like, I'm gonna kill your family, I'm gonna kill you, like loads of proper awful things. So yeah, after all of that, my mum was like, right, we need to get psychics in, because this house is weird, there's something going on. We need psychics out to come and help us because we can't live here, like, with this happening. My mum literally rang the council because she was like, what the hell? But yeah, so anyway, my mum ended up getting the psychics to come in. Psychics come in, do what they have to do, and then they go to my old bedroom, and that's when they're like, there's a ghost portal in this cupboard. There's a ghost portal in this cupboard, and that's why things are being able to come through and back out, like, and there's so many different like things going on and activity. Also, they went into the kitchen and they started going, I'm getting a stabbing energy in here. There's something bad that's happened in here. And my mum was like, oh, great, good to know. So yeah, the psychics came, did what they did, then they left, and everything was okay for a bit, but things still needed, like, my mum was then talking about getting a priest in and everything. Anyway, my mum ended up going to our next door neighbour, because our next door neighbour had actually lived there, like, her whole life, like, since well before we lived there. So she actually knew the old neighbours who lived there. So my mum asked her about them and, like, was like, do you know anything about who used to live here? And she proceeds to tell my mum that there used to be a son and a mum who used to live there, and the son had mental health problems, which was kind of similar to me and my mum too. Like, I have mental health problems. I'm diagnosed now with autism and ADHD, so, like, and my mum was on her own too. But yeah, similar to us, she was a single mother, but she actually used to blame her son for the dad leaving, and she used to abuse him in the house. Obviously, back in those days, people used to abuse, like, the kids and stuff, but she used to go, like, way further. Like, she'd lock him in the cupboard and beat him and things like that, and that's why the portal was actually in the cupboard, because that's where he used to hide, and that's where she'd lock him in. But yeah, pretty much he used to, like, run around the streets naked and things like that. And one day when he was fully grown and he was an adult, he ended up snapping, and he slit his mum's throat in the house, downstairs. So that's actually why the psychics picked up on that. But she didn't die, she actually survived, and then he still lived with her, and he ended up dying from a heart attack in the house, and that's actually how he died. So he actually did die in the house, so it makes sense why he was haunted it. But yeah, that's what our next door neighbour told us, which made sense. But yeah, anyway, then my mum ended up getting a priest in. He blessed the house, and then when he left, he was supposed to come back again to bless it a second time. He didn't, because he had a heart attack. He had a heart attack when he left the house, which is just off it. Like, that is actually insane. Like another part that reminds me of The Conjuring too is one time me and my friend were downstairs. It was 3 o'clock in the morning again. This was through lockdown. We were sat there, literally behind my friend in the darkness of the landing. It was fucking horrible. It was absolutely awful. And we shit ourselves and ran. But yeah, so that is, like, pretty much why my house was haunted. And a side story, so actually years later, like, after all of this, well, my mum did get another priest in to bless it again and all, so activity did calm down after that, but yeah. But continuing, years later, my mum ended up actually talking to this man on Facebook, and she was like, you know, they were talking, you know, my mum's, you know, getting to know him, and then he says, like, he's like, oh, whereabouts do you live? And she was like, oh, I live, like, our road. And he was like, huh, oh, you don't live at, and then said our house number to her. And she was like, how do you know where we live? Like, how do you know where I live? Like, how do you know what number I live on that road? And he ends up saying, oh, well, actually, my father used to live there. His father, right? And he proceeds to send a picture to my mum of him and his dad when he was a little kid. The photo is in black and white. It's the most horrifying thing I've ever seen, by the way. The photo, when my mum showed me this photo, I felt sick to my stomach, because in the photo, his dad was the man who used to stand at the end of my bed. It was the exact same man in that photo, and that photo was horrifying, because even in the photo and all, there was loads of weird faces in the background, like demonic looking faces. Like, I don't know where they were, but there was loads of like statues and weird. It was really creepy. But yeah, so my mum blocked him, because also what the psychics had told us too was, don't let history repeat itself, because the psychics literally said that they were worried because of the similarities between me and my mum and him and his mum. So yeah, that's my story. And it was, yeah, I wish I still had the photo, because then I would post it, because honestly this photo is terrifying, but it is some man and his dad, so I can't really do that. But yeah, he was scary. But yeah, that's my ghost story. Thank you.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
But I don't know how to make it sound any better than it is. It's a bit of a long story, and it doesn't just involve me, so I can't really explain it to full extent. But the long version is, I felt like the devil was on me, not on me, but around me, to get it, okay? So this is the scary story that I've stitched it for. So one night after this whole interaction has happened, which is a very, very long story, I was in my bed, and it must have been at like 4:30, 5 in the morning. And in the corner of my bedroom, I used to have like a laundry hamper. Please ignore my hair. I used to have a laundry hamper. And it was one of those cloth ones. Like, it wasn't sturdy enough for a human to sit on without it collapsing. Okay, take note of that. So I feel really scared now. Anyway, so I look over, I wake up, but it's one of them ones where like, if I stood still, I could have fallen asleep again. But I was awake. I was fully sober and awake when I saw this. And I look in the corner. My room's very, very small. I look in the corner, and I shit you not, I see this long, grey, dark woman sat on my hamper with her arms like this, just staring at me with her hair covering her face. But I know she's staring at me. To this day, I can't remember if I told her to fuck off or if I said, I rebuke you. All I know is I turned out and went back to bed, as if nothing happened. Imagine. And she was very, like, she had a very scary energy. So I definitely should have been scared of her. I don't know why I wasn't scared of her, but I just wasn't. Maybe actually I'm just confirmed child of God, because that should have scared me, to get it. And then not too long after that, I was sat in the living room with my mum, and she's watching TV and I'm on my phone on TikTok or whatever. And we had like a pair of headphones like this that was like at the bottom of like the TV stand. And for some reason I just keep staring at it. Like, I'm just staring at it. This thing moved. The headphones moved, but there was no one near it. My cats weren't near it. No one was near this thing. It shifted a whole 90-degree angle. And I got up, I told my mum was like, you're being ridiculous. I was not being ridiculous. I saw what I saw, okay? And this all happened within the same week. So I had that demonic interaction, which was, it wasn't my fault. Do you know what I mean? It had nothing to do with me, really. It just happened. Then I saw the demon in my bedroom, and then things started moving. So yeah, you know, that's just one of, I think, many. And then even when I was dating this guy, he left me in his apartment overnight, and I literally heard his front door open and close, walked past his bedroom where I was into the living room, walked to his bedroom door again where I was, stop, and I ignored it. I thought, oh, his roommate's come home. Like, his roommate's just come and ignored me. Like, he's not said hi, whatever, ignored it. Then 20 minutes later, the roommate comes home, and he's like, hey, and I'm like, weren't you here a minute ago? He's like, no, I just got back from work. They both thought I was crazy. I know what I heard. I know it wasn't the neighbors. I know what I heard. I know that.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go.
Okay, so this is something that I just never really told anybody. I just used to keep shit like this to myself because I didn't want people thinking I was crazy. But I used to live in this house, and we moved out during COVID. Now, I lived in this house all the way from when I was in the 6th grade up until I graduated college. Now, as a kid living in this house, I could instantly tell that something was off because it seemed like all the creepy and spooky shit would only happen to me. Now, I was a very intuitive person, and sometimes I could sense shit or see things. Okay, now this one time in particular really spooked the hell out of me. I still remember. It happened during summer vacation. I had just been promoted to the 9th grade. And now me, I was always the last person to fall asleep at night. I don't know why. I used to stay up all night watching all the good shit that used to come on Adult Swim. Now this all started from within the kitchen. Now, in the kitchen, we have this old clock / radio that sits on top of our microwave. It doesn't work. And we never plugged it up because it is always feedback, a lot of static, and you could never make out what they were actually saying. Okay, now keep in mind, this radio, we never plugged it up. It always stayed unplugged. Tell me why at 2 o'clock in the morning, I just hear some loud ass music coming from the fucking radio. I go in the kitchen and investigate. It's the fucking radio plugged up. Plugged up. This radio hasn't been plugged up in years, and all of a sudden this bitch started playing music all throughout the house, and I was the only one in the house that was awoke. And like, as a kid experiencing that shit, I was so fucking scared. I kid you not, I turned on every single light in that fucking house just to walk my ass up in the kitchen and unplug that bitch. Now, I unplugged the radio. The next thing that happened makes this even fucking scarier. About 10 minutes later, I'm back in my room chilling, watching Naruto. I hear a loud ass thud come from the fucking laundry room. Okay, and now in order to get to the laundry room, you have to go through the kitchen. So guess what I do? I get my ass up, I turn on all the fucking lights again, and I go through the kitchen. Right before I'm able to step foot inside the laundry room, I just get a strong whiff of bleach. Now y'all, in our laundry room, we had 3 shelves. We always kept our bleach on the top shelf pushed against the back wall. So how in the hell did a bottle of bleach that was pushed against the back wall manage to fall on the floor? Now, I kid you not, I just stood there. I'm just looking at the shit like, okay, so if it was, how the fuck did it? I'm just in disbelief because I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I get the mop, and as I'm starting to like mop up the bleach, all of a sudden my ears started ringing. And you know like how you can like sense that there's somebody behind you? So bitch, I'm looking. Ain't nobody behind me, but my ears is fucking ringing. And that same bleach bottle that was on the floor that got knocked over, I just see that bitch start rolling. I hauled ass up out of that motherfucking laundry. Man, I ran to my mama room. I said, Mom, get up. The bleach fell. I said, the bleach fell. Something wrong. Somebody up in there. She never got up. So guess what? That bleach stayed on that floor till the next morning. I could literally make a fucking documentary film about this fucking house. I experienced so much shit, and I remember several times when I would be home alone, I would literally hear fucking footsteps in the attic as if someone is walking up there, but it's impossible. This house used to scare me so fucking bad that like, my mom didn't get off work until like 7, so I would literally be standing outside all fucking night until she got home, and she'd be like, what the fuck you outside for? Is something wrong with this fucking house?
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Boy, do I have some stories for you guys. I almost don't know where to begin. Let's just say I always end up working in schools or colleges, and sometimes these colleges have very dark histories. And let's say because a lot of the buildings that these colleges are in used to be either psychiatric hospitals or an old church, something of that nature always. So I'm going to start off with the story when I worked in this one prestigious college, right? Now, in the summer, all of the students leave. You know, you guys go home, and you know that if you're in college, you go home for the summer. Some may stay back, you know, but they have to leave the building. And we always get happy about that time because then it gives us like a little break, right? So I'm thinking we're going to have an amazing summer. So I'm the supervisor of a building, and I get assigned to this one particular building, and this building always was creepy to me. The floors are black and white. It used to be a psychiatric hospital. There's an east wing, a west wing, and something about the way this building vibe is always rubbed me the wrong way. But I ignore it because, baby, when you got to bring a check in, you kind of just like try to ignore the things and the feelings sometimes that you get. So one particular day, I get assigned to this building. Okay, let's call this building the 20th Street building. So I get to go to the 20th Street building, and I have 2 guards that are with me. And I am a fire safety director, and then I have 2 guards, and they check the building, and I check the things that are important to the building. Really important, like the HVAC system, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we're sitting down, and we're like in the front area of the lobby, and we're just like listening to a little music down low. We, like I said, we vibing because there's no students, so we don't got to pay attention that hard. So we're like talking, listening to music, and all of a sudden we hear a door open. And I know that there's nobody in the building, okay? I know that that building is completely empty, and I know that my supervisor isn't there because he would tell me he's on his way, and he would come through the front door. So immediately we like turn down the music, and I'm like, wait a minute, turn the music all the way down. So we turned the volume all the way down, and we went to, to make sure what we was hearing was correct. Because what it is there's a push bar in the back where we were sitting. There's a push bar down that hallway at the end of the hallway. You know those push bars that you really have to click it and open it for you to get through those doors. It's not a swinging door, it's a push bar. So I start to creep over. I'm like, let me check. I'm like, I'm the supervisor of the building. Let me try to like muster up some balls and just like walk over there. So one of the guards that are with me, she's like, no, I'm going to come with you. So she's like creeping over me. So it's like this little wall right there. And then right around like the wall was where I had to look. So she creeps around with me, and I look over in the corner, to see the push bar door, to see what was happening. And the door just closed, open, and then opened and stayed open. And right away they just started running. My heart is beating super fast at this point, because I'm like, what the just open up the door. So I grabbed the walkie-talkie, I grabbed my cell phone, and they already had left. They exited the building, but I ran back into this little area where we sit in this little booth area, and I grabbed the things that I needed, like I said, the walkie-talkie and the phone, and I run out the building. I called my supervisor, and I'm like, hey, there's something going on in this building. I said, the push bar doors open by themselves. And my other guards that are with me, they're like panicking. They were like, oh my God, there's ghosts. They're just going, ham. My supervisor's like, no, don't worry. There's nothing. There's like, it's probably not what you think. Maybe you're tired. Maybe because I had worked a double. Had nothing to do with it. I'm like, no, there's something in this building, and I need to get out of it right now. We need to leave. Like, I'm not going to work here. So send somebody else here to relieve me out of this spot, because I'm not going to do it. So after the gaslighting a little bit, they finally come down. My supervisor comes down, and he's like, why don't we check the cameras? Did you think of that? Why didn't I check the cameras just to see? So my supervisor goes, and he's checked the cameras, and he sees the doors open like 3 times. He sees them close, close and open by themselves. And then that last time when it just stayed open and it was just nothing holding the door. He was like, yeah, I understand what you're saying now. There's definitely something going on here. I was like, get me out of this building, and don't ever assign me to this building, because I'm never going to work in this building again. I was like, I will leave this job first. Like, I'm not going to do it. So he was like, okay. He was like, listen, just don't say nothing. Don't scare the other guards. Just keep this to yourself. So the person that came to relieve me, I started telling them what's happening. I'm like, yo, watch yourself, because there's definitely some ghosts, some spirits in this building. Something's happening, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, watch yourself. And he's like, nah, nothing. I'm not worried. I'm like, okay. I see him again the next day. I see him in our main building where we all go in to sign and find out what buildings we're going to be assigned to. He tells me, listen, I went to sleep in the lounge, he told me, and something held me down. He was like, I couldn't move. He said, no matter what I did, I couldn't move. He was like, finally, I just started screaming out like, leave me alone. I'm a black man. I have enough problems. He said, and finally he was able to get up. So he was like, you're not crazy. There is absolutely something very dark going on in this building, or that's like in this building. And that was just the beginning of the story of the 20th Street building. The guards started telling me all the things they experienced over the years, and some of them were so scary they could be on American Horror Story. And if you guys want to hear it, just let me know. But I promise you, don't watch this late at night when I'm about to tell you on the other stories. Promise you, keep the light on, because what I'm about to share with you guys is going to rock your socks off.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
I don't usually make storytime TikToks, but this thread really caught my attention. I've been like watching them recently. I know this story's gonna sound unbelievable. I've told it to a couple people before, but I know what I witnessed, witnessed, and I know what my mom witnessed too with me. So just for some context, my next door neighbors, they were like elderly. The guy still lives there, but his wife passed away when I was in 7th grade, and she passed away due to like complications because she like started smoking from a young age and she like needed oxygen. But I don't like to talk like badly about the deceased, but she was like a really mean person. Like she would yell at me and my neighbor when we would like run through their yard, and she was just like she just had like this bad demeanor to her. So I'm in 7th grade and I wake up and I'm getting ready for school. Check it out. So my dad left the house already, like he's on his way to work. My brother is downstairs eating breakfast. My mom is outside walking the dog. So it's just me upstairs. And I know this because like all the doors are shut and the lights are off, like upstairs, like to the bedrooms. And I leave the bathroom, and I come to my room to come get changed and stuff. And the bathroom door isn't one of those doors where like if you let it go, it'll just like swing shut. It's one of those doors that like you actually have to like push it to close it. It will never just swing. There's also not a window in the bathroom, so there's no wind that could come in and knock it. I get to my bedroom and about 20 seconds later, I hear like the loudest slam of my life, like just this boom, like it almost like, I don't want to exaggerate, but it almost felt like it rattled the walls because the bathroom's 2 doors over. And I go out, I'm like, well, I stop, like my blood runs cold. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Then I walk out to go see what it was, and the door had been slammed shut, the bathroom door. There's no one else upstairs, it's just me. And I don't remember what I thought in that moment, but all I thought was like, I just heard that, and I know I left that bathroom door open because I wasn't done. Like I still had to go in there and like brush my teeth and stuff. Like I know, like I didn't close that bathroom door. It slammed shut. I heard it. It literally shook the upstairs. My brother was downstairs. My mom was outside. My dad was gone. Like I even was like, hello. Like I was like, mom. Like nobody was upstairs. I looked. I like no one was upstairs. So that freaked me the fuck out. So I actually, oh, and this is how I know my mom wasn't upstairs with me or anything. I actually was in my room and I was scared, and I like waited for my mom to come back inside, and I was like, Mom, you know what I mean? Like I called her up and I wouldn't go downstairs without her. Like I'm in 7th grade and I was scared to death. Like I was like, I needed to wait for her to like bring me downstairs with her. I was so scared. And I explained to her and she was like freaked out a little bit. And then the weirdest thing ever is like my mom, we used to make waffles before school, like, or like toast or something easy. And my mom had the toaster going, and all of a sudden we just smell like this smell, and I was like, me and my mom were like, it smells like cigarettes. Like it smells like burning cigarettes. Like it did, like, you know how like when you're making something in the toaster, like it smells like something's like burning or cooking a little bit. Dude, like it smelled like cigarettes, like right outside of a bar, like someone smoking a cigarette, like it smelled like that, like cigarettes. Well, I told you that this lady next door, she smoked all her life, and that's probably the reason that she died, because she needed oxygen, because like she smoked from a young age. And me and my mom didn't really think anything of it. We were like, what the fuck? So we get in the car and she's driving me to school. I have a normal day at school, and she called me and she was like, I'm gonna pick you up from school today. I was like, okay. Not early or anything. She picked me up on a regular time. And when she picked me up, I got in the car and she just had this look on her face. And she informed me that our neighbor, that lady, had passed away. And we had no idea. Like, we just did not know. Like, in the morning, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is some news about our neighbor that passed away and stuff. We learned this after the fact. And I remember being like, oh my God, that sucks. And then I remembered what happened that morning with the door slamming and not knowing what the fuck that was, and um, the cigarette smell. And it's such a weird story to think about. And it's sad that like, I don't remember like exactly how I felt in that moment on that morning. But, that's probably the only thing the most paranormal thing that's ever happened. And I didn't see anything, like I didn't see a ghost trail down the hallway, or I didn't hear anything besides the door slam. It was just me by myself upstairs, a door that you actually need to push shut because it's not on like it doesn't just close itself, like slam shut to the point where it rattled the walls, and then the smell of cigarette smoke. And like I think that maybe it was just like her spirit or something like passing through our house at the time. Um, our neighbor did say that I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but I think our neighbor did say that he got up in the middle of the night and she said goodbye to him. I can fact check that, but because I'm cool with him, that like we talk, me and that neighbor. I mowed his lawn and stuff like that for years. I remember him saying something like that, or hearing that he said something like that, but I'm not sure. But that is definitely a paranormal story. Didn't see anything, but experienced it. It was definitely freaky. And I don't know if I did good at this video or not, but let me know what you think.
Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable, but
Hi, I had to wait until I could get away from my home and in the car lawn, which is harder than, the combo is harder than you can think. Currently I'm sitting in like a quick check parking lot. My son and I have a strict policy. We do not discuss this issue at home out loud at all. Not in the house, not around the house, not in the parking lot, not even sitting in our car, nothing. Not until we're away. There is a shadow thing that lives in the apartment upstairs. I've lived in this apartment complex for 10 years, and in that 10 years, the upstairs apartment has had at least 5 different occupants because they can't keep them there. None of them say we're leaving because of a shadow thing. They all just leave because they're uncomfortable. The first time I saw it was several years ago. I was lying in bed, and my bed faced the bedroom door, and it was open. I sleep with the door open. I know you shouldn't, but I do. And in the middle of the night, something woke me up, and I opened my eyes, and along like the bottom half of the door, like the bottom half of the open doorway, it looked like someone peeking into the room while on their hands and knees. But something was just off, and the more I looked, the more I realized there was no changes in the light. Like when something curves, like the light like changes so you can see the curve. There was no curve. It was like a 2D stamp of just a black stamp on reality. And I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? And it just, my heart just dropped to my ass. I was just like, but I couldn't scream or anything because I didn't want to scare the shit out of my kid, who is autistic and would not take that well. And my cat was curled up right in my arms, and she wasn't reacting. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just having a mental breakdown. And it slowly pulled out as if it were like crawling backwards out of the doorway, and it disappeared. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm dreaming. I'm sleep paralysis, something. And then I heard the click of the living room light that's next to my couch clicking off, which is the moment I realized that the light had been on in the living room, which is why I saw the thing so clearly. And it turned out the light, and the room went dark. Oh my goodness. It took a beat, and then I got up on shaky legs, and I went out to investigate the apartment. The doors were locked, all the windows were locked. And that bothered me, and that stayed with me for a couple days. And then from then on, it just started making random appearances. We noticed that it doesn't come down to our apartment like late spring through summer. I mostly don't see it. Unless the people upstairs move and the apartment complex maintenance team comes in to renovate and refresh the apartment. The thing does not like the maintenance people. And then it paces outside. We have like a big bay window in the living room, and you can just out the corner of your eye see it pace it back and forth, this like vague shadow, and I try not to look at it. When it's outside, it does all sorts of shit, but fall through winter, it will randomly pop up. I have to carefully keep my front door locked, because if it's unlocked at all, it will open my front door and just leave it wide open. I have a mail slot, and it's lifted the mail slot and then opened the door. So I know no one's lifted the mail slot because the door immediately opens and there's no one on the other side. It's turned off lights. It's open and slam shut cabinets in the kitchen. It's opened my refrigerator. I don't see it. I can hear it from the living room. It opens it, it moves the shit in the condiments, and it slams the door shut and hard enough that things in the refrigerator rattle, and I can hear it. It peeks at us from around doorways. We've been sitting on the couch, and it's walked behind us into the kitchen and then made a right and into the next apartment. One time I went to get up from the couch and I saw an arm laying on the floor that I could see through. It had just been laying there just hanging out watching TV with us. I don't talk to the upstairs neighbors about it because I maintain I don't acknowledge it. It's banged on my windows and I don't acknowledge it. I don't look at it. When the upstairs neighbor currently, she goes to work very early in the morning and then comes home late at night. And while she's at work, it sounds like someone's moving furniture. And sometimes it sounds like it's stomping up and down her stairs. We don't acknowledge it. We don't talk to her about it. We know she's not at home. Yeah, it's been going on for years now. We've been living there 10 years, but we didn't notice it until I think it's been 5 years since it's made its presence known. But it's a shape. It doesn't even look human other than the fact that it's got like a torso, arms, and legs. There's no face. There's no features. And the light doesn't bend around it. Like, it doesn't have any curves or anything. It just looks flat. And it just scares the shit out of us. And I see it. My son has seen it. He's watched it. And then he looks at me and I'm like, do you know how incredibly hard it is to keep a child who's autistic from acknowledging a goddamn shadow thing that walks through the living room? Someone's getting in the car. Okay. Yeah. My cat has acknowledged it twice. Once it was peeking around my son's bedroom door while I was in the living room. I was trying not to look at it, and the cat stood up and chased after. The thing ducked back in my son's room, and then she came out and spit out a housefly. So I don't know if she was chasing a housefly or if she saw it or it was involved with fly. I have no idea. but she really doesn't acknowledge it. Yeah, it scares me, but I'm a single mom of a disabled kid. This is like the cheapest apartment in the area. I just deal with it. But yeah, you had to wait for that story until I was away from the house, because I just feel like if I acknowledge it more than just being aware of it, bad things will happen. So we don't talk about it, but it's there, and it really wants to be acknowledged. But yeah, that is the second ghost story that I couldn't talk about from the last video. Okay, you guys have a good day.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
The amount of stories I can honestly sit here and tell y'all is disgusting. So to keep it short, I'm just going to tell you about the story that really set everything off. So when I was 5, me and my family moved to a new house. The house was really nice. It was a 3-story house, really big, really nice. We moved in fine. We unpacked, everything was good at first. So one night, my mom is in the kitchen cooking, and she basically yells for me to go and tell my siblings it's time to come and eat dinner. So my brother's rooms were on the 3rd floor, and I wasn't allowed to go up there without their permission or my mom's permission. So when I went to tell them, I'm standing at the landing, and I'm staring up the steps to the 3rd floor, and there's so weird. There's 14 steps. I don't know why I remember that. I used to count steps. I don't know. But yeah, there's 14 steps. So it's a long staircase. But above the staircase, it's a hallway. So it's the wall straight up, straight up the staircase. You're looking at the wall. Then when you turn, there's a room right here. And you come down the hallway. There's another room at the other end of the hallway. I hope that makes sense. Mind you, there are no windows in this hallway. Keep that in mind. There are no windows close enough in the rooms to reflect the hallway. It's gonna make sense soon. So I go to yell for them, mommy said come eat, and I stop mid-sentence because I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking at. So I'm seeing a silhouette, I'm seeing a shadow on the wall, but it's of a woman, and she's standing sideways, and her hair is flowing in the wind. She has this long nightgown on, because of the length of it, I could tell it was a nightgown. It came all the way down, and it was just flowing in the wind. And mind you, there are no windows. I don't know how I'm seeing this. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm just seeing her, and she just standing there, and then she just falls. Mind you, I'm seeing her sideways, so it just looks like she just falls. So at this point, I go mute. I go mute, and basically I just turn around and go right back downstairs and tell my mom. So I guess my mom asked the neighbors and people in the neighborhood what happened in the house, stuff like that. And at first nobody was trying to tell her nothing. It gave they knew something, but they didn't want to say anything. It was just a you don't want to know type vibe. Very weird, but yeah. So somebody essentially tells her oh, somebody died in the house, and they tell her the story or whatever. Y'all, why did they tell her? Somebody committed suicide on the a woman committed suicide on the 3rd floor out of the window. So I'm guessing I saw her reenacting her committing suicide. And now that I'm thinking about it, well, I didn't really see nobody push her, but somebody could have pushed her. She could have been trying to get me to solve the case. I don't know. I don't even know why I saw it. I really don't. But yeah, I saw that, and then my mom found out she committed suicide. And it's crazy because after that, we found out other people passed away in the house. And all this strange stuff started happening to us. It was a lot going on. 3 of us, mind you, there were 6 of us. 3 of us would see a black shadow figure following us around. When we would look, it would duck away. I don't know how to describe it. We would try and chase it around corners and see where it went, and nothing would be there. I would play with my toys, and I had dolls, Barbie dolls, Bratz dolls, all types of different dolls. I would play with them and come back, leave and come back, and they would be in different positions. Somebody else was playing with them. Mind you, I know nobody else is coming in my room and just playing with my toys. I don't know. One time we heard something like it sounded like not a human, but something like big and like I don't know. But we heard something like crawl through the wall. Like we were about to watch a movie, and as soon as it got like really quiet, something like crawled through the wall. And I'm not talking like through the bottom, like oh it might be a mouse. No, I'm talking top to bottom, crawling through the wall. Like we heard it. And I've seen other like spirits, I guess, in the house because I've seen like other people, but it wasn't the lady that I saw the first time. I had crazy dreams all the time, sleep paralysis all the time. Like it was really a lot going on in that house. I don't know. But yeah, if y'all want to know more, let me know.
A ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, so I understand that I'm super late to this stitch, but I wanted to share this. And before I shared this, I wanted to call my sister and my mom and just make sure that I wasn't losing my mind because we never have talked about this since I've been an adult. But sure enough, they all said, yep, that's exactly what happened. You're not crazy. That house was haunted. So here's the story. So this took place in Bristol, Wisconsin. I was in 4th grade and we moved around a lot. So we rented a lot of different houses. My mom was a single mom. It was kind of just wherever we could end up. Well, this was a really nice house and it was on a little dead-end street and we loved it there for about a week. And then all of a sudden weird things started happening. Lights were turning on and off, TVs turning on and off, you know, the typical stuff. But then it got really scary. So after that first week, I started sleeping in my mom's room and so did my sister because we didn't want to sleep by ourselves. Because I was waking up between 3 and 3:30 every single morning, freaked out. Like something was this close to my face and breathing in my face. I was so scared. I'd wake up crying and just terrified. Like I wasn't alone, like something was watching me in my room. Well, one night we were sleeping in my mom's room and it was 3:17 in the morning and I only remember that because the clock was right next to me. I was facing the wall. There was color blocks on the wall like my mom had painted in these. It doesn't matter, but I just remember this so vividly. And my little sister sat up in the bed and started speaking fluently in some language that we did not know. So I sit up, I turn on the light, I freak out and sit in the corner and my mom is shaking her. Brittany, wake up. What's going on, Brittany? And she is just staring straight ahead, speaking in this language, which my mom found out was Latin. 3 to 5 minutes, she stops and comes to and starts crying. And my mom's like, what happened? And she said, it was so bright, it was so scary, there was wings in my face. And she just kept saying, there was wings in my face, there was wings in my face. So weird. I still to this day don't know what that means or what happened. I just remember being terrified and so confused as to what just happened. So a few days after that, we had just gotten home from school. My siblings and I are sitting in the living room eating a snack, watching TV, winding down, and we hear, and we freak out because it's coming from the bathroom, and my sister and I run in there. And my mom is in the bath and pounding on the glass, and the second that we open the door, she sits up out of the water and crying and saying something was holding her under the water. Weird things would happen. Like I would hear my siblings when they weren't even there. My mom would say that she'd hear us running upstairs, like we just got home from school, saying, Mom, we're home. And she'd come upstairs, we weren't there. Just really weird stuff. It got to the point where it was so scary to live there. My mom literally just had a gut instinct, like we had to leave. So one day she literally said, pack your stuff, we're moving out tomorrow. Was so determined to move out of this place that we moved in with one of her friends until the new place that we were going to rent was ready. After we move out of this place, my mom gets a phone call from the landlord accusing my mom of blowing up the house. Quickly determined that it was nobody's doing. There was an underground gas leak and we had just gotten out in perfect timing. I wish that I could sit here and tell you that us moving made the oppression and experiences stop, but actually it came with us to the next place and got even worse, and I could tell you stories for days, like friends telling me they see demons walk in and out of my house. Follow me for more.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
10 years ago, I was playing varsity volleyball at the University of Maryland, and that in itself was a horror story, but my teammates and I would go every single weekend to this bar that was really close to campus, like maybe a 3-minute walk from our dorm. And on this particular night, I was with a teammate who usually would rather go to a house party. And we were only at the bar for maybe an hour before we lost each other. and I assumed that she had gone off to go to a party like she usually would. So I left. And I know that it's not girl code to leave your friend at a bar, but I was 18 at the time and invincible and did not know how to act. And to be clear, she was at a party and she was fine. But I get back to my dorm, which was the top floor of this really old building, and my roommate, who was another teammate of mine, not the person I went to the bar with, she was not there that night. And I don't know if she was with her boyfriend or if her family was in town, but whatever the case, she was not sleeping in the room that night. So I get into bed and eventually I fall asleep, but I wake up a little while later in this weird half awake, half asleep state. And in the corner of my room, I see this woman standing there. And my first thought was, oh, there's the teammate that I lost in the bar. Found her, great. But after looking at her for a little while longer, I realized it wasn't her. My teammate had hair just like mine. And the person I was looking at had this long, dark, straight hair. And she was wearing this sort of hospital gown, it looked like, kind of. And she was covering her face with her hands like she was crying. And if I had been actually awake at this time, I would have fled the room quick and in a hurry. But in this weird state, I just kind of went back to sleep. And in the morning, I chalked it up as a dream. But the next night, my roommate was back. And I think it was a Sunday night, so we had classes the next day. And we got up the next morning, which was the Monday morning. And she started telling me that she had seen something weird in the room the previous night. So I said, okay, well, what did you see? And she said that she had woken up in the middle of the night to see standing right next to her bed a woman with long, straight hair who looked like she'd been crying. And at this point, I hadn't told my roommate what I'd seen because I had fully thought it was a dream. But needless to say, we were really freaked out. But I will say, I didn't get any sort of malevolent or evil feeling from this ghost entity, whatever she was. And for the next year-ish that we lived there, I talked to her a lot, but I never did see her again.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I hope I'm not too late to add on to this, but this is one of my favorite scary stories to tell because it involves my family and that never happens. But I have a couple from West Virginia. I went to school in West Virginia, so if you want to hear more, let me know. So I'm a Pisces. My birthday's February 28th, and last year on my birthday, my uncle who had stage 4 cancer passed away. We celebrated all day, and then at night is when I found out that he had passed. And I was obviously very sad, and we were kind of prepared for it, but still, nonetheless, very sad. After his passing, my dad was like, we're going to have him cremated. And that was honestly kind of surprising. But we decided to do it, and we kept his ashes and like the urn in our kitchen until the ceremony, which was also a little bizarre. My parents are very spiritual people, but also like my friends were like, you keep him in your kitchen, and I was like, yeah, it's fine, he's family, he's in there. And he loved to like party. He loved to like have a little drinky drink. And in our kitchen is a bar, and it's usually stocked with like white wine and cheap champagne, usually Andre brand champagne. My uncle's name is Andre. So, a few days after he had been in our kitchen, I pour myself a glass of champagne, and I turned to him and I'm like, cheers to you. And this is probably around 11 or midnight. And I go downstairs to my room. So my house is separated by 2 floors. On the first floor is like the main floor. It's where the living room, kitchen, office, my parents' bedroom, like whatever. The bottom floor is like another whole apartment. It's a house, but like it's a whole like new flat. Like we have another living room, another kitchen, my room, which has 2 French doors with no windows. So they close like this, but it doesn't lock. So you can like hear through it. Laundry room, bathroom, and a sunroom. So that's the downstairs, and that's where I stay. So I take my glass of champagne and I go downstairs, drink it, think nothing of it. I watch some TV and I fall asleep. A few hours later, I hear my mom yelling for me at the top of the stairs. It's probably like 3 or 4 a.m. at this point, and I just hear her say, can you come to the kitchen real quick? And I'm like still kind of eyes closed, like, what do you possibly need at the kitchen? What do you need from me at like 3 or 4 a.m.? Why do I need to come to the kitchen? And so I'm kind of like, what? Like, huh? What do you need? It's silent for a bit. I hear her walk down the steps. So you have to open a door to get down to the basement, and you have to walk down a series of 12 steps, and then it's probably like another like 10 steps to get to my room. I hear her walk like halfway down the steps, after the silence, and then she goes, "Can you come to the kitchen?" And it's not the most polite answer that I gave. I was like, "What do you need?" I'm really exhausted. I'm like, "What do you need?" Again, silence. I hear her walk back upstairs, like walk back up like a few steps. She never closes the door. We always close the door. We have a dog. We have an elderly dog upstairs. And so she always closes the door, but she didn't. And I'm waiting to hear if she needs anything else. Dead silence for a very long time. So I just go back to sleep. In the morning, I go upstairs and I talk to my mom. Actually, no, I think I called her to come downstairs. And I was like, what did you need last night? Like, you called me to come to the kitchen super late. Like, what was going on? She was like, no, I didn't. What do you mean? What do you mean? No, you didn't. I was like, yes, you did. You called me to come to the kitchen twice. And I asked what was going on. You never responded. And you just walked away. She was like, I was asleep the entire night. Like, this is one of the few nights I actually slept the entire night. Our whole family's like kind of insomniac, except for my dad. He can sleep through anything. So the fact that my mom slept through the entire night was bizarre. And also the fact that she's like, it wasn't me was bizarre because I specifically heard her voice. If I had heard anyone else's voice, I would have been terrified. I knew it wasn't my dad. He's going to sleep the entire night. So the fact that I heard her voice, I almost did it because that's my mom. That's my girl. Like, I would have been upstairs in that kitchen if she really needed me, So that was really weird. And I told her last night I toasted Andre before I went to bed. And like I said, they're not really like spiritual or whatever, but she was like, that's really weird. I don't like this story. Like, don't tell your dad. Like, okay. But it was, I don't know what that was. Something that sounded exactly like her called me to come upstairs and then just disappeared. I choose to believe that it was likely Andre just like kind of toasting me back. But that was also so strange. And I definitely believe if I had heard his voice, I would have freaked out. So I kind of understand why it wasn't, anyone else's voice. But what was going on? Does any other spiritual people, like, let me know in the comments if you have an idea what's going on. Because it felt like, it was definitely like a scary experience, but it also, in hindsight, doesn't feel like evil or negative. I don't know. I also have to say that in my parents' house, I've had a couple experiences where I have woken up from a dream just to wake up from a dream again. Like, I'll be asleep and then my mom will come into my room and sit on my bed and like, like pat my leg or something and just like talk to me, and I'll talk to her back for a little bit, and then she'll leave, and then I will wake up and I'll like look at my phone and I'll have like a text from my mom or something, but she has not come downstairs. Like, we have not had a conversation. That's happened multiple times when I'm in my room in the basement, it's quite cute down there. So like, it's not like really scary. At night it is pitch black. I will say that. It is absolutely dark. Like, so it's a little creepy at times. I've just gotten used to it. Yeah, so that's my go-to story for now. But if you want to hear some about West Virginia, let me know, because I know that's kind of popular on here and I do have some stories to tell. So yeah.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first. When I was
Okay, it's my time to shine. So, a little bit of context. I am spiritually gifted, so I do have a tendency to see spirits, hear spirits, yada yada yada. Okay, so just a little bit of backstory there. So I've had a lot of experiences, but the one I want to share is when I went to college at EKU, Eastern Kentucky University. And if you have went to EKU and you've had an experience, please let me know. I want to hear your story. So I was an RA at Telford Hall, and there's multiple spirits, I think, at Telford. But the one I want to talk about, her name is Allison. And FYI, this happened when I was 18, so 22 years ago. I'm 40 now, so this happened a hot minute ago, okay? But I still remember it vividly. And I have other experiences with Allison, but the one I'm going to share stands out the most. So, Telford Hall, I was an RA, and the Telford dormitories was, there was 2 suites, and then there was a bathroom in between. And so, in order to get to, like, your suite mates or something like that, you would have to go to the bathroom, but you can lock the door, okay? So, you know, when you leave, you would just lock it, and the other person couldn't get to your room, and vice versa. So, a friend of mine, I will not use her name, because I haven't talked to her in years, and so I don't know if she would want to be associated with this or not, but we will call her Paula, just for reference, whatever. So, she needed a ride to her boyfriend's house. And so, I had a car, she didn't. So I took her down to her boyfriend's house. In context, it was at the bottom of Telford Hall. So if you go, there's like a road and you go down. I don't know if it's still this way, but there was a gas station at the bottom of the road, and there was apartments above this gas station. So literally, it was like, just drove her down there, came back. I was gone maybe 10 minutes at the most, okay? So I go back up. She did not have a suite mate, mind you, okay? And she was 2 doors down from me on the same floor. And her alarm starts going off, just her alarm. That was a common occurrence at Telford, having alarms go and off, like, odd times throughout the day. So, you know, if you set your alarm for 6:30 a.m., it would go off at 6:30 p.m. Just, that's a very common occurrence, okay? So, I'm curious to know if it still goes on. But anyway, her alarm was going off. I call her and say, hey, your alarm's going off in your room. Do you want to come back up here, or what do you want to do? And since I was an RA, I had access to the master keys to all of the rooms. And she said, if you can go get the master key, go in my room and just turn off the alarm, that would be great. I was like, sure, okay. So, mind you, I was just in her room like 10 minutes prior, okay. So, I go get the key, open up the room. And again, for context, she had no roommate. And the bathroom door was locked, so nobody could enter in. Nobody could enter her room because she had the key, and the only way to enter to the room is if you had the master key to the room, which I had. So I go in the room, and it was rearranged. There was, I know this sounds weird, but when she left, she had like dirty silverware in the sink. It was underneath the sink. And then she had a box of tissues that was on one side of, it was like a bookshelf. One side of the bookshelf moved to the other side of the bookshelf. She had decals that was on the windows to Telford. And these windows were pretty much floor to ceiling windows, okay? And if you were like standing in front of the window, like the bottom of the window probably came up to your knee or something like that. So these windows are huge. She had decals in on her windows, and was like a no smoking decal and all these other decals. They were flipped backwards. Okay, flipped backwards. And then the most freaky thing was they were bare footprints going from the middle of the window all the way up to the top left of the window, like it was walking into the ceiling. So just like footprint, 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 starting from the middle of the window all the way up to the ceiling. I freaked out. Okay. All of this happened within a 10-minute time frame, and no one had access to that room. I called her and I said, Paula, again, not the real name, told her what happened. She would not come back to her room for 3 days. And that's just one of the stories that I can share on Telford Hall at EKU in Richmond. If you want more stories, please like and follow, comment below. But it was the freakiest thing I had ever seen. And I actually had to go get the essay who was in charge of all the RAs and show her what had happened. Crazy experience.